Hello and welcome to TheAIbumMan. Today we're going to be starting a brand new series and it is called The Musical Box. And if you don't know what that is a reference to, then oh dear, dear, dear me. It is of course the fantastic song from Genesis's Nursery Rhyme album, which you really should check out if you haven't heard it, and especially the story. The story of that song is bizarre to say the least. So what is The Musical Box as a series? Well, basically, you can think of it as what I've been listening to recently. I don't know if anyone will actually be interested in this series, but I suppose it's just going through a bunch of albums I've been listening to, me talking about some of my thoughts on them, whether they be positive, negative, or mixed, so you can think of it as just a smorgasbord of mini, bite-sized, sort of off-the-cuff reviews. None of these are at all scripted or planned, they really just kind of, off the cuff. So let's begin. Well, I have to say, I think after I've said my thoughts on this album, the problem is everyone may kind of just turn off this video completely, because what I'm about to say is not the most popular opinion. We're going to be talking about Neutral Milk Hotels and Aeroplane Over the Sea. This is an infamous 90s rock album, heralded as a classic, one of the all-time greats by many. By me, I think it is goddamn awful. And there's no sarcasm here, there's no joking, no irony. I genuinely hate this album. I think it's absolutely awful. I can't quite see, I can't see at all why everyone loves this album to death. Jeff Magnum's voice is the most grating thing I've possibly ever heard in my life. It just makes me want to find a small squirrel and strangle it, and I really love squirrels. So it has to take me a lot to get to that point. But Jeff Magnum's voice truly does get me to that point. And people will say, well, the lyrics of this album are so good. The King of Carrot Flowers and Holiday 1945 and the kind of Anne Frank stuff to it. And yeah, I like The Diary of Anne Frank. I think it's a fantastic book and I get the references across this album. I don't think the lyrics are anything that great. The two-headed boy, in the airplane, just the king of bloody carrot flowers. No, the lyrics aren't that good. Then they really kind of, I'm going to be honest, I think they're just B-rate lyrics. They're not that good at being kind of fantasy. I don't think they're amazingly imaginative. I don't think they're that good as any historical representation. I don't think they're all that deep or interesting, to be honest. I found better lyrics in, well, many other bands. Neutral Milk Hotel, I'm going to be honest, I don't get this one. I truly don't get this one. If in the comments you want to explain to me why I'm an idiot for not understanding this album, please do, because I actually genuinely want to know what people see in this, because I can't see much at all. Musically, it's fairly standard, basic chord progressions and acoustic guitar. The instrumentation I think is weak across this album. Why many people call this a perfect 10, I am absolutely puzzled. I've also been listening to a lot of King Crimson recently because I'm going to see them in September, which is going to be amazing. And particularly the album Red. This is the final one? Yes, the final one in the trilogy of John Wetton albums. Yeah, first Lark's Tongue, then Starless and Barrow Black, then Red, which contains the track Starless. How not confusing is that? Now, Red is actually an album I reviewed quite a while ago. Damn, how long was that? Oh, it was when I did a prog week. I reviewed, what was it? This, Camel's Mirage, and something else proggy. I can't even remember. It was probably in about 2012 maybe? 2013, 2012, 2013, so a good 2-3 years ago. And my opinions have definitely changed on this album since then. I thought it was a good album, but I didn't think it was a classic back then. Now I think it's an absolute prog classic and a freaking masterpiece. One More Red Nightmare, I've always loved that track, so catchy. And Starless, I mean, you can't deny Starless. The orchestration, it's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life. One of the most beautiful things progressive rock has ever just created. The only thing that can rival it truly is, well, King Crimson's In the Court of the Crimson King from their first album, which is another stunningly beautiful track. The instrumental of Red, and I love this album all the way through. I would say Providence we could do with just snipping a few minutes off of that. 3 or 4 minutes off of that. King Crimson often have that problem, aka Moonchild from the first album, how much I want to snip out that middle bit where it's just like, oh, let's tap something here, let's just, oh, little bit of sound here, let's have no tune, no melody, no notes really, just the odd tiny noise. And Providence, well, doesn't quite get to that level of just absolute Fripp wankery. It meanders. It meanders, and Fripp can often meander. Fripp sometimes just needs a little bit of editing and a little bit of trimming, but it's Red, so I don't care. So I was going to see Rena live. In fact, I've been to see them live, and they're supporting the new album, Unquiet Skies, which I will be covering, not as a full review, because I don't really think anyone would care. I don't know if Rena are at all big in my subscriber base. I have a feeling they're not, so I'm going to be covering it in my review roundup thing, Review Rewind, which I will be doing another episode of that soon. Just adding the finishing touches to that, deciding what albums I want to cover for February, even though it's nearly the end of March. Yes, I'm always on top of these things. Anyway, Rena. So the album, particularly Seventh Degree of Separation. This was their, well, last album before their new album, which came out 2 weeks ago. I haven't said that in a tall confusing manner. And this had another new lead singer. If you know this band at all, basically they're an 80s, well no they're not, they're a 90s neo-prog kind of supergroup. They have the drummer from Marillion, the original, like Script for a Jester's Tear, Marillion drummer, Mick Pointer. They have John Mitchell, who's been with It Bites, and Arena, Frost Star as well. He had a new solo album out a couple months ago. If you know the modern prog scene, you're probably going to know John Mitchell. He's been around the block. And it also has the guy from Pendragon on keys, who I can't remember the name of. It's Clive Nolan. It has Clive Nolan. And they're pretty good. I'm not a big fan of neo-prog. Aside from Marillion and, well, Arena, I find neo-prog to be one of the most destitute and creatively barren genres out of all of progressive music. In fact, I wouldn't even call it progressive. Neo-prog is the most regressive genre on the face of the earth, really. Okay, maybe that's a tad hyperbolic, but it's rather regressive. It's let's take Genesis and just copy them forever and ever, ever and ever on every song and every album throughout every year. It's like, yeah, I like Genesis. It doesn't mean I want to hear 400,000 albums or more Genesis. But this, I definitely found Arena, they stick out from the pack a bit, and some degree of separation, kind of more of like a pop rock vibe to it. The catchiness of One Last Au Revoir, the ballad of the Tinderbox, The Great Escape, and it's kind of harder, you know, you've got some good distortion from John Mitchell, really good guitarist, and if you kind of like that keyboardy, neo-proggy sound, but just shorter, more poppier tracks, I suppose, this may be an album you might be interested in. I don't know. So we're going to talk about just 2 more albums before I leave you be. So Miles Davis, A Kind of Blue. I decided recently I wanted to get into jazz. Why? Because I realised I knew literally nothing about jazz, and particularly listening to King Crimson, they have a lot of jazz influence. In fact, there's a lot of bands I like that have jazz influence, and I'm finding myself really liking more jazzy songs as I've been getting older. So I thought, why not just go for some actual all-out jazz? So I thought the place to start would probably be Miles Davis. I thought the place to start with him would probably be A Kind of Blue. I mean, I had heard Bitches Brew in the past, but that hadn't quite resonated with me. Kind of Blue, though, damn, is that a good album. I can definitely, well, I can't see why anyone likes Neutral Milk Hotel. I can see why people consider this the greatest jazz album of all time. I mean, I may have only listened to quite literally 2 jazz albums up to this point, but I would definitely say it's the greatest jazz album I've ever heard. Out of the 2 I've heard, the other one being John Coltrane's Supreme Love, which is damn good. Love Supreme, which is awesome as well. But Kind of Blue, oh my god, it is a spectacular album. So of course this is an instrumental album, in case you're not familiar with jazz at all, don't expect vocals here. Miles Davis of course was a trumpeter, and his trumpet is damn good, but really he just got such a strong musicians behind him. In fact, I'm pretty sure Coltrane is actually the, I think it's the alto saxophonist on here. I could be completely wrong. But the best tracks, So What, yeah, and All Blues, definitely my favourites. But it's really just 5 tracks, and some of them are quite lengthy, but they never feel boring, and that's the thing. He's very good at, even though he often deviates a lot from the musical theme, there's just something so interesting, so progressive, I'd say, about the way he plays his jazz, and I can definitely see how this has had such a massive influence. It's a very emotive album. It really just kind of captivates you. It's one you just listen to end from end. It's not one I could ever imagine just, oh, I'll listen to just flamenco sketches today, or just Freddie Freeloader. No, it's something you listen to from So What to flamenco sketches in one sitting, and you just enjoy it. You just relax to it. It's just such a good chill out, such a good album to mellow to. Really one of the best albums to mellow to I've had in a long while. Good album. The other album I've been listening to quite a bit recently is one that won't be a surprise to anyone, and it'll be one that's probably pretty familiar to, well, everyone. Dream Theater's Images and Words. Do I need to say much about this? Probably not. It's a prog metal classic. It's Dream Theater, who are one of my favourite bands of all time, so yes, I'm hellishly biased towards them. You're either going to love this band, or you're going to absolutely despise the living hell out of them. And a lot of people absolutely despise this band and all their technical guitar wizardry and all their virtuoso wankery, I suppose. A bit like we were talking about Fripp before. Dream Theater can sometimes get a bit like that to some people, but to me, I've always found them pretty focused, and I've always enjoyed their longer songs a lot. Like here we have Metropolis Part 1, The Miracle and the Sleeper, which is the prelude to my favourite prog metal album ever, favourite Dream Theater album, Metropolis Part 2, which is one of my top 10 favourite albums of all time, so of course I like that. Pull Me Under, that's a song everyone knows, the catchy single. And Learning to Live, that's really the song that everyone should know from this album, that maybe doesn't quite get as much attention as it should, but damn, it should. If you want to see what Dream Theater is really about, Pull Me Under, Metropolis Part 1, Learning to Live, for Images and Words, you really can't go wrong. So yeah, this has just been a trial of this series. Tell me if you like it, if you want to continue, or whether you think I should just shoot it dead, and that it's a bad series about me rambling about albums I've listened to and albums you've most likely listened to. I honestly don't know. This has been the Album Man. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, and as usual, long live rock and roll.